And good afternoon. Here we are again at our Lunch and Learn. And I know a lot of you saw that sneak peek and went, oh my gosh, what's she talking about? So, we're going to be talking about a gluten-free diet and how you may be ingesting gluten and you don't even know about it. And so the labeling is not correct. There's a lot of things going on with this. And so this article is written by our friend, and her name is Dr. Senna McCullough. We've talked about her before. We did a report on how she healed herself from autoimmune disease, and so this is another report that she did about gluten-free. And so we want to talk about that because it's very, very important. You cannot trust the gluten-free label. So a lot of people are very, very concerned about being gluten-free. They need to be gluten-free. There used to be the understanding that if you had celiac disease, you needed to be gluten-free. Now, celiac disease is a disease where you have a great insufficiency in your gut. Your gut is really compromised and you just don't have the enzymes that you need to process gluten. And so there are people that have this disease, and I think it's like 12 million in the United States. Oh, sorry, 2 million in the United States. But there are 20 million Americans that are gluten sensitive. So there is a difference between gluten sensitivity and celiac disease. Celiac disease is very rare, very deadly. Of course it is, but gluten sensitivity affects 20 million people. I believe it affects more than that. The doctors used to ask you are you gluten intolerant? Now they ask you to what extent are you gluten intolerant? And that is because all of our grains here in the United States that are processed with industrial farming are sprayed with glyphosate. Glyphosate is a Roundup product. They spray the fields not once, but twice. And the reason they do that is to have the grains, not the grain, but the wheat, the stalks, the grass shrivel up, pop those kernels out, and then they run their harvester over there and they get a better yield. And so that's why they do it. And yay for them because they get a better yield, but bad for us because every bit of pasta that you buy, every bit of cereal, every bit of bread, all those things that have gluten in them, you're also getting genetically modified organisms. We believe that genetically modified organisms are very damaging to the gut. When your gut is on fire, is how we like to say it, then you're not going to be absorbing your food. You're going to have leaky gut syndrome. And what does that mean? Well, let me kind of explain that. You've got GI mucosa from your mouth all the way down to your bottom. Okay. And what that does is it closes and makes a barrier. So you eat your food and then you pass your waste, and it's a barrier. So none of that goes through the intestinal wall. None of it goes through the stomach. None of that. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Because we eat the standard American diet, most of us have absolutely no clue what gut health is. Most of us have no clue what you're supposed to eat and how you are supposed to eat it. We buy whatever's in the grocery store and everything is labeled FDA approved, or we understand is FDA approved. And so we believe that the government is looking out for our best interest. But I'm going to tell you, the government does not look out for our best interest. The government looks out for the lobbyists' best interest. And so you need to be able to be your own best advocate, and you need to choose the products and the foods that are right for you. Now, when that gut mucosa, we're talking about that gut mucosa, when it is intact and there is integrity, whatever you eat goes in, your body does what it does to process it. You absorb all of your nutrition, all the waste products go out, no harm, no foul. It's a win-win for everybody, right? All of your belly bugs, everything that's in there, it's all a good thing. When you eat the standard American diet that has pesticides, herbicides, and also has glyphosate in it, then what you're doing is you are burning holes into that intestinal mucosa. That mucosa spreads, and little food particles, you don't have the tight junctures. Now you've got this. When that happens, the undigested food particles can go through that into the bloodstream. Your body is going to recognize that as, oh, we got a foreign invader. And so it's going to mount an immune response, and you are going to have what? Gas, bloating, diarrhea, stomach cramps, a lot of farting and burping. I'm sorry, but that's just what happens. I know it's not nice. I know it's not ladylike and all that kind of stuff, but this is what happens when you don't have integrity in your gut, in your small intestine. So when I talk about gut, I'm talking about your mouth, esophagus, into the stomach, but also including your small intestine where you absorb all your nutrition, and then your large intestine where all the waste products go and go out of the body. In the small intestine where you are absorbing all of your nutrition, you've got little villi that have little hairs all over it that just suck up all the nutrition. When you are getting wheat, when you are getting gluten, when you are getting glyphosate in there, these little villi go away. And this is what your intestines look like. Bump, 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 bump. So you see how you don't have the area to absorb your nutrition that you used to have. Now, will this come back? Yes, this will come back. However, what you have to do is cut out all gluten, all pesticides out of your diet. So if you are just looking at labels and you are reading labels that say gluten-free, you are ingesting gluten that you don't even know about because people aren't talking about that. So most people feel like foods containing wheat, barley, or rye, such as crackers, bread, and beer, okay, are gluten foods. And this is because this is what the FDA tells us. According to the FDA, there has only been sufficient sufficient research to prove that these three grains are full of gluten. Now, the sufficient research came, guess what, in World War II. Okay, World War II in Germany, as a matter of fact. Nope, I take that back, not Germany, the Netherlands. In 1944, the Netherlands experienced a winter of starvation when the Germans cut off their supply of wheat, barley, and rye. During that time, Dutch pediatrician Dr. Wilhelm Dick, maybe Dickey, was caring for the children hospitalized with celiac disease. He observed that the forced change in the children's diet resulted in the elimination or the alleviation of their symptoms, even though the children were starving. When the war ended, those three grains were once again consumed by the children, and they quickly relapsed. While this was the first conclusive evidence that grains trigger celiac disease, it also led to the mistaken truth, and we do truth in quotation marks, that only wheat, barley, and rye contain gluten. These three grains are the staples in the Netherlands diet at that time. Therefore, they were naturally categorized as gluten-containing foods. Other grains, such as rice and corn, were not readily consumed or available, and therefore were not tested to determine whether the children's bodies reacted to those foods. As a result, for roughly 70 years, grains such as rice and corn have been considered safe for people to eat who had celiac disease or gluten sensitivity. In 2013, this generally recognized truth was officially adopted by the FDA when they defined gluten-free to be foods that contain no wheat, barley, or rye, or even crossbred or hybrids of these grains. Now, what the FDA did not do, and it still has not done, it has not classified these grains. So if you have celiac disease, if you have gluten intolerance, I need you to change your diet because you are consuming gluten that is not helping you and it's not alleviating your symptoms. So these are the other foods that contain gluten: corn, rice, quinoa, buckwheat, millet, amaranth, telf, and sorghum. Okay, all of these foods have gluten in them. Now, the FDA says, oh, that they're safe, but they also say these grains have not been studied. So, are they safe or have they not been studied? You can't have it both ways, right? You determine something is safe is what they've been studied to be deemed safe. They have not been studied, and they say that the difference between safe grains and unsafe grains is determined as being somewhat arbitrary. So that's not good. If you have gut issues, and we have all kinds of people that have gut issues, that is my main thing that I deal with every day here in the clinic. Now, you've seen this multiple times, Thrive in 63. We do this. In this diet, this is a gut repair diet. We eliminate all grains. Now, let me tell you what the grains are. They are wheat, barley, rye, oats, rice, quinoa, amaranth, and buckwheat. So Thrive people have it right. So if you are only alleviating or avoiding in your diet the barley, the wheat, and the rye, you are definitely adding into your diet. If you're eating any of these other grains, you are putting gluten into your diet. And what they have shown in the research, which we're going to talk to you about, is we're going to show that when you have these foods in your diet and you have these symptoms, you're not going to get alleviated. D says modified food starch as well. Yes, ma'am, you are absolutely right. That is a additive in all processed foods. I think it comes from corn. All right. Corn in the United States is 95% genetically modified. And so corn, while that is my absolute favorite vegetable, I limit the amount of times I eat corn because it is, in most cases, genetically modified. Now, if you have celiac disease, then you can have mouth ulcers, you can have tooth enamel erosion, brittle nails, brittle skin, acne, eczema, diarrhea, bloating, constipation, infertility, both male and female, and early menopause. You have joint pain, muscle pain, stomach pain, nausea. You could be lactose intolerant. You could have anemia. You could have dizziness, migraines, depression, low vitamin D, and chronic fatigue. Now, we see these symptoms all the time. So it says rice and corn have generally been considered safe grains for celiac patients, although once again, there has been a lack of rigorous controlled scientific study of these grains in relation to celiac disease, especially with up-to-date methods. Adverse reactions to what I shall somewhat arbitrarily term safe grains for celiac patients may not be common, but they do exist. Such adverse reactions should require more research, so we need to know that. So the FDA has largely based its definition of gluten based on the foods that have gliadin. Gliadin is the enzyme that is in these foods. There are other proteins that we should not be consuming, and they are in these other grains. The FDA does not acknowledge that gluten exists in all grains. Now, they go on and they say, and this goes back to what Dee says, thanks to farm subsidies, genetically modified processed corn derivatives are added to the majority of processed foods, from breakfast cereals to cakes to crackers to frozen meals. That means gluten is ubiquitous in the grocery store. Additionally, what are most certified gluten-free products are products that have rice and corn in them. So you cannot trust your labeling. All right. This lady says, this is the doctor that has written this book. She says that she tried to heal her gut by adopting a gluten-free diet, and she found that it just didn't work for her. When she took out all those additional grains, guess what? Her body changed, her gut changed, and all of her symptoms went away. So there's an article in 2009 that was published, and it concluded that after 16 months on a traditional gluten-free diet, only 8% of the people healed their gut lining. 8%, just 8%. Okay. 65% of the people had persistent inflammation. 26% had no change, and 1% became worse. The authors concluded complete normalization of the duodenal lesions is exceptionally rare in adult celiac patients, despite the adherence to a gluten-free diet. In other words, the traditional gluten-free diet failed to help 92% of the population. So if we are avoiding just wheat, rye, and barley, but we're not avoiding those other grains, we're not doing a complete job of healing the gut. And this is what people don't understand. You might think that because you don't have gas, bloating, all those kind of things, then your gut is good. I'm going to tell you, if you're eating those foods that have these additives in there or have these enzymes in there, instead of having good villi like this, it's absorbing all your nutrition, you've got nubbies and you're not going to be absorbing. And this is what we find. Now, this is what we find. Again, I'm going to go back to this because this is painless financially and painless in my office, where we can tell you what's going on with your gut. If you are not absorbing your food, guess what? Your gut microbiome is off. What does that mean? That means your belly bugs, all of the bacteria that are in your belly, your small intestine, and your large intestine are off. When we are born, if we were born vaginally, that's the way it's supposed to happen, then the babies get their first inoculation of probiotics as they go through the birth canal. Don't want to take a lot of time to talk about that. That is a scientific fact. You can look it up for yourself. Babies that are born C-section do not have as strong, as robust an immune system because they don't have those good probiotics from mom in the system that they get as they go through the birth canal. Yes, ladies, you've got good lactobacillus in the vagina. That's just the way God made it. And if you're having any kind of lady bit issues, it's probably because your probiotics are out. Now, the good thing is that we have products, mainly probiotics, prebiotics, postbiotics, all of those biotics, right, which means life, that go into the gut and they repopulate the good belly bugs. When you have been born vaginally, you have 80% good bacteria, 20% bad bacteria. If you've ever been under stress, who hasn't? If you drink chlorinated water, you bathe in chlorinated water. If you've ever had antibiotics, and guess what? We all have antibiotics when we eat commercially raised meat, chicken, beef. All of those that are commercially raised have antibiotics in them. Your dairy products that are commercial have antibiotics in them. So when you consume those, you get this. Your bad bugs are up, your good bugs are down. And so what you want to do is you have to ingest good probiotics so that you rebuild that good balance of 80% good, 20% bad. Think of it this way. It is the springtime. A lot of you are like me. You like to go out and garden. When I go out and garden, I rake, I pull up, I clear everything out. Why? Because I've got winter yuck that's in there. I've got dead plants. I've got trash that's blown in, all that kind of thing. So I rake up. I do a lot of cultivating. I may put some fertilizer in there. I may not. But I do plant my new plants. I go to the garden store, plant all my new plants, and I look and I stand back and I go, oh, yay, it's so great. I'm so excited. It's so pretty. Well, within 2 to 3 weeks, if I don't do anything, guess what? My ground is covered with weeds. Why? Because weeds self-populate. And it's the same thing in your belly. You take your antibiotic, it kills all of the bugs, the good bugs and the bad bugs. But if you don't repopulate with the good bugs, then the bad bugs are going to grow up and the bad bugs are going to take over your microbiome in the gut. Now, what does that mean? That means you've got a lot of gas. That means you've got a lot of constipation. Why is that? Because you don't have the right flora in there in order to help you digest properly and eliminate properly. So we've got a brand new product coming out. I think mine gets delivered tomorrow, which I know is a Saturday. That doesn't help you. However, it is a good probiotic. It's got your prebiotic in there. And guess what? It survives digestion. Most of the probiotics that you have on your shelf or that you have in your home cannot survive digestion, especially if those are the ones that you need to refrigerate. Now, I know you think, well, if I refrigerate it, they're good. Well, not so much. You've got to get ones that are specially treated so that they survive digestion, or you have to get the ones that are in a spore form so that they survive digestion. And you have to get those on purpose and be mindful, because what you're seeing in your store is not either one of those. I'm just telling you that. So you've got to repopulate. When you repopulate, if you had nubs and you are eating gluten-free, processed food free, then those nubs will begin to grow. And within about 3 months, you're back to where you need to be, where you're absorbing your food. And so this is why we do these lunch and learns, because I bet you didn't know half of what I just told you, right? So just going to talk to you about that. Corn, all right, which corn is my favorite thing. I don't have any gastric disease. I don't have any celiac. I am not, to my knowledge, gluten intolerant, although I do know that I'm gluten intolerant because all gluten has what? Genetically modified organisms. Do I need genetically modified organisms in my body? No, I do not. Genetically modified organisms bring into your body heavy metals. Heavy metals are a food source for negative pathogens that we have in our body. So it's really, really important that we know this and we don't do this. In the 1970s, we have known that the gluten in corn can affect people with celiac disease and irritable bowel disease. Now, I don't know the statistics on this, but irritable bowel disease is very, very prevalent in our culture. It's very, very prevalent here in the United States. Oh, about every third person that comes in to see me, I see that they've got spastic colon, irritable colon. I can look in the iris of your eye, which is what we do. And you can get your phone and you can take a picture of your eye, open really big like you're scared. And you've got your pupil, which everybody knows that. This little center ring around the pupil is your stomach area. So you go ahead and you take that picture of your iris and you look. If that circle around your pupil is gray, you have stomach issues. If that pupil or circle around your pupil is bright and highlighted, you've got some major issues going on with your digestion. If the next circle around your pupil outside of the nutritive zone is your bowel, they call it the collarette. If it is raised and ropey and shiny, you have bowel issues. So doesn't take a scientist to figure that out. You just have to have a good camera. You can put it right here on your eye, open real big, take that picture. Don't move, of course. And you can even send me the picture and I'll help you to figure that out. But I'm telling you, almost every person that comes in to see me has gut integrity issues. In 2005, a study published in the magazine Gut reported that nearly 50% of subjects developed gastrointestinal inflammation and antibodies to corn. 50% of the people. Why do you develop antibodies? Because the body recognizes there's something in here that does not belong here. So my immune system has to mount a response, which is inflammation. And then your DNA makes antibodies to fight what's in your gut. 50% of the people in this study in 2005 had a negative response to corn. Now, honestly, am I going to quit eating corn? Probably not. Am I reducing the amount of corn that I consume? I absolutely am. Do I still go out and eat my Mexican food? I absolutely do. I am mindful. I am so mindful that I need to limit the amount of corn that I have in my diet because I don't want to develop irritable bowel syndrome or Crohn's or leaky gut syndrome or anything like that. All right. So the gluten-free labeling confusion, right, is the reason why there are people that are eating a quote unquote gluten-free diet, but they're not getting any better. They're not taking rice out of their diet. They're not taking corn out of their diet. They're not taking quinoa out of their diet. Now, I love quinoa. If quinoa is something that you have no idea what that is, it is a grain that acts as a protein in your diet, which I like that, okay, because we like to limit our carbs. So I like the fact that quinoa is a protein. The good part of that is that quinoa, if it is organic, will not have the glyphosate on it. It still is going to have some of the gluten properties in there. So you're just going to have to see if you're sensitive to that or not. If you have tried the traditional gluten-free diet and still have symptoms, check ingredient labels for gluten-containing compounds. And modified food starch is one of those compounds. MSG is one of those compounds. So hopefully you're not eating that. Hopefully you know to look for that. Hydrogenized starch also is a gluten process. So anything that has a thickener in it or that you use for thickening, right? Those are the things that have gluten. So gluten can be found in common table salt, which contains corn derivative used as an anti-caking agent. Instead of trusting the gluten-free label, choose whole foods, which are naturally gluten-free, such as vegetables, fruits, and meats with 100% grass-fed, grass-finished cows, pasteurized chickens, eggs, and wild-caught fish, not pasteurized, pastured chicken and eggs. Now, why is this? What is the difference between grass-fed and grass-finished? A lot of cows are grass-fed, but I think it's the last 2 months, and that might not be quite right. The last little bit before they go to market, they fatten them up with grain. Because that time period is so short, our rules allow them to say that they're grass-fed, but what you want to look for is grass-fed, grass-finished. Just going to throw that out there. That's what you're going to be looking for. If you want to avoid gluten, be cognizant not only of what you put in your mouth, but also what you put on your body. Many personal care products, household cleaning products, and other items such as glue on the back of stamps and envelopes contain grain derivatives. Even toothpaste commonly contains at least one grain driven ingredient. So I bet you didn't know that, right? Because I didn't know that. And I'm real picky about my toothpaste. I use fluoride-free toothpaste. I use one that whitens my teeth. And so I don't have to go to the dentist and have all that abrasiveness going on. If you have any of these symptoms or issues going on in your body and you want to get a good gut repair program, we've got several. We've got high-end that we've used for years, but we've also got this brand new gut repair program. I think you take one little sachet a day. It tastes like raspberry watermelon. It's got a real fruity taste, and it survives digestion, and it goes right where you need it, and it starts to repopulate the good bacteria in your gut. This is what we need to do. If you want that, give us a call. We have limited supply. Why is that? Because it's not even going to be released to the general public until May. But this girl knows the smart people, okay? And because I know smart people, I get heads up on things that are coming down. And so I'm able to purchase a small amount. If you want to get on this before your friends can get in on this, or if you know somebody who needs to have an economical remedy for gut issues, let me know. We'll be happy to put you on the list. We already have a list of people that want this product. I'm excited to be offering this product because it's very, very economical. And yet it has been studied, I think, for 8+ years before they have brought it to the market. A lot of scientific study, a lot of scientific research. And so I want you to understand that we work with you on your health issues. I'm not a medical doctor. I do research and I do know how to get your health back. So if you are wanting to get your health back to optimal levels and you're going to want to get in on this product, you're going to want to call us and get on our list. So our number is 281-312-2860. You can message us here. You can you could contact us in any of the ways that we have out there. We are here for you. We love you. It is the weekend. I want you to take care of yourself and be mindful of what you're eating. Don't trust the gluten-free label because you are getting other gluten issues, especially if you're a vegetarian. Now, if you're a vegetarian, a lot of your meat substitute products have soy in it. In the United States, soy is sprayed. 95% of the soy crop is sprayed with glyphosate. So soy is not a good option for you. If you are a woman, soy will interfere with your thyroid and it interferes with your estrogen. So soy is not a good product for women. If you are a man, you still have a thyroid, although you don't have much estrogen. We do ask that you get organic soy or you do fermented soy if you need to do soy. So a lot of the meal replacements and that kind of thing have that in there. A lot of your vegetarian choices have that in there. So be mindful. Let me know if you need any more information. I'm here for you. Enjoy the weekend, and I will see you next week. Take care. Love you. Bye.